Hello, everyone, and my name's Holly Peralta, and I'm the CEO and founder of Recenter. This is our first webinar. Very excited to get going. Today, we're going to talk about lived experience and healing in community, or another word could be healing together. We'll talk about what lived experience is and all the different types of community or support groups you can be part of in just a few minutes. So with that, I want to tell you a little bit more. So I am created Recenter just since November. We opened up officially. This has been my dream. I left Microsoft a couple of years ago, moved to Ireland, went back to university, and we started Recenter officially in November. So part of Recenter's ethos is we really believe in healing in community. So no matter what types of programs we're offering, whether it's groups, residentials, workshops, we want to ensure that we do it with groups of people that are all trying to heal from emotional trauma. So we will be talking about all types of different opportunities for that in our future webinars. We will be taking what is trauma and breaking it down into trying to really understand it. We'll talk about different types of recovery. And every single time we will have an interview with someone built into our webinar. And this time it's with a fabulous Nuno Albuquerque. Love that name. And so we talked last week, and we'll have that interview included today in this webinar. So stay tuned for that. So with that, we'll go ahead and we'll get started. So what are we going to talk about? Each time we'll have interactive activities in our webinars. That is something we want to ensure we always take a pause and have a discussion, or if it's live or if it's pre-recorded, we'll ask you to complete something just to take a stop and get our minds working a different way. Like I mentioned before, we'll always have a guest interview, and that could be an expert in a topic we're sharing. It could be someone sharing their personal lived experience. It may be someone who has been in, for example, my life when I was going through my personal experience. So many people are affected by emotional trauma, and trauma affects people in so many different ways. We could talk until the end of time, and we still won't have covered everything. So I have lots of ideas on the types of webinars we want to build in the future, and we're always going to be open to your suggestions as well. So if you have them, please send those to us at info@recenter.uk. Particularly for today's webinar, we are going to talk about what it means when I say lived experience, or you see the word lived experience. We're also going to talk about all the different types of communities and groups that you can get involved in to start to heal, and why working in groups helps us heal. So the first thing I'd like you to do is think of 3 words that you would use to describe yourself. Understanding our strengths or how we think about ourselves is actually key to, one, are we prepared to work in a group? Are we strong enough? Are we brave enough? Hopefully the words when we apply to ourselves are positive, but not everyone can come up and conjure up positive words. So just take a second here, 30 seconds, to write down 3 words to describe yourself. Okay, one other thing as you're finalizing that, I want to talk about is through the ethos of our webinars, actually, I want to point this out, is there is not a lot of humor in trauma. It's not funny, but it is important that we do some things to keep it light. Having we haven't figured out what that is, and I think each webinar it'll be something different. So it could be a meme we use or you'll see throughout. It could be a funny story that maybe has happened, but has something to do with maybe a reaction I had because of my trauma that caused something funny. Or it could just be a fun fact of the day. So today's fun fact, it happens to be a Wednesday when I'm recording this today. And I got some fun socks for Christmas. And I'm not typically one that would wear fun socks, but my socks have camels all over them. They're orange and blue, and it has the word hump day listed all over them because Wednesday is officially hump day because it's the middle of the week. So that's something you can have in your mind's eye is under this desk are my feet with hump day socks on it and camels. Okay, so what's lived experience? You may have heard of it. If you read the mental health strategy in Northern Ireland, you probably heard lived experience all over the place. And you'll hear me talk about why I feel qualified to do this webinar and some other webinars, or feel qualified to even start my company is based on my own personal lived experience. So there's lots of ways to explain it, but I think for this, on this slide particularly, the experiences of people on whom a social issue or a combination of issues has had a direct and personal impact. And it's taking those impacts, positive or negative, and then sharing them with people. Additionally, it's important that organizations, healthcare especially, are checking in with people and finding out what is their lived experience and what do we need to learn from it? What do we need to change? Or what do we need to keep doing? So is it positive? Is it negative? Am I being treated a certain way because of the way I look or because of my personal trauma? Lots of different things can come out of lived experience. And there's so much evidence about the importance of it. In Northern Ireland, in the next 10 years, they're really going to start trying to incorporate people with lived experience into the healthcare environments or into different GP practices or into the trust to really start hearing how are people experiencing other people as well. So this is my quote in here. It's lived experiences of trauma and healing means a person has been through an experience that allows them to have a unique perspective, knowledge, understanding, and expertise about the experience. This is not something that can be gained from going to a single course, reading lots of books, getting a degree. Often a person with lived experience will also possess a level of compassion that others may not have. This is important to me because I've gone to university so I could learn about trauma in general and counseling in general, but it did not teach me about my own trauma of childhood abuse or abandonment. It may have given me some ideas of what some of the symptoms could be, but I'm able to articulate that personally and how it affected me. And my personal lived experience, some people have a better experience than others. For me, I've already been to rock bottom. And so that's another reason I can talk about my recovery, my lived experience recovery, is because as this says, there's nowhere to go but up. And I definitely have gone up. So the other piece is why do we heal in community, or why is it important healing together? I think this quote from the Huffington Post really says it all, is that we do need each other. The human being needs a sense of community, connection, closeness, and intimacy, not only to survive, but to heal and thrive. We heal and thrive when we feel connected and supported by each other, and we suffer when connection and support are not available. Healing works best in community. Healing in community builds safety, trust, acceptance, connection, and support in every training. The other thing that's important, and to give you an example of why what this quote is talking about really hits home for me. if you have perspective on yourself, so even when I had you write down 3 things about yourself, someone else who you've spent time with, shared with, it could be friends, it could be strangers, it could just be people in a group, they're going to have a different perspective on you. They often will see you in a completely different light than you may see yourself. And it's so wonderful when someone shares that with you. The other piece is with your own experience. So for my own experience, at times, I forget that I went through hell as a child. And if I'm sharing my story and someone mirrors back to me that that was horrific, it will help me sometimes have more grace with myself, be kinder to myself, and remind myself that I've been through a lot and I've come through so much to get where I am. But it takes other people to mirror that for me. And that's what we get in community and by healing in groups that we do not get if we stay going it alone. So therapy, trauma-focused therapy is very important, and it allows patients to discover skills that you can practice with yourself and with others. And it helps teach you better ways of coping or how to respond to triggers, how to work with others, and how to have relationships. Often it teaches us anxiety management and relaxation strategies. So group therapy does a lot of those similar things, but again, it gives us those mirrors within a group. And a lot of time, it's again saying you're not alone, and it promotes others to get support. So there are people who don't have anyone to support them, and a group really helps them do that. It's also safe. A group therapy is usually run by a therapist or a trained facilitator that's trained in group processing. So again, I have been through my own group therapy. I've been in 2 different groups. One lasted about 8 months, and then the other was a couple months. And one was smaller of 3 people, and one had 7 people. So it just really depends on what type of group you want to join. Okay, just to think about that for a second, we'll take a deep breath. So what I'd like to know is what would concern you about doing group work? What would concern you? So when I say group work, what's maybe the first place you feel it? Are you like, oh, that is scary, or people are going to know my business, or they're going to judge me? And if you were going to join a group, what would you look for in that? What would you want to make sure it had in it? If you are comfortable enough, I would love for you to send a note to info@recenter.uk, and you can just put comments on group work and give us that feedback. You can also put it into the comments of this webinar if you'd like to do that. Okay, so what is a peer? So a peer is someone who has experienced a similar maybe a similar event as you. Maybe they've also had childhood abuse. So it's a person who's an equivalent position, and challenges may be alike. The difference is there's some people that may appear to be in power or have a power position, such as a therapist. So they have that power position because they may have more knowledge. They don't have particular trauma that you may be working through. So within peers, there is no power difference. That's really important to know about that. And the reason that is because I want to talk to you about what a peer meeting is. So a peer meeting is a way it's run by other people in the peer. So for example, I'll use the example of ASCA because it's one that I've been in, adult survivors of childhood abuse. So I facilitated that meeting initially, myself and another woman. We co-facilitated it. It didn't put us in any power position. It just meant we got the Zoom information ready to go. We talked to people who maybe wanted to join the call to explain to them what it was. and we facilitated the meeting in order to keep it safe and follow the guidelines, if you will. That was our job. We also participated. We would share our own stories, give feedback. It's a great way to get support, and typically they're free, and you can join them online or in person. So ASCA is an example of one I went to. You'll maybe have heard of 12-step meetings. If you're in the US, you've definitely heard of 12-step meetings, and there are so many different types. Originally formed for AA, they now have them for Narcotics Anonymous. Like I said, ASCA, it's not particularly a 12-step meeting, but it is based on steps where we would work through 21 steps, again, ran by peers and supported by peers. Okay, if we going to pause again, and now you've heard about the importance of talking to others. So if you could just write down 5 people, this is for yourself, that you feel you can go to for a chat. And it could be you're feeling down, you want to share your story, you have shared your story, someone that you want to share your feeling about a certain way that's coming up for you. Make a list of 5 people. It's important to have this because there's at times when you really need someone and you're racking your brain of who you're going to call. It's good to know that you've got your list close by and you can kind of look at it and say, okay, I'm going to make this call. One of the benefits of going to a peer-led group is oftentimes each week there might be a meeting. Someone will put in their contact information to be a buddy, if you will. Sometimes you can get a sponsor. And if the meetings are in person or even online, they also spend time where they come out of the meeting and will talk about, they call it a cafe possibly, where you can talk about anything. So it's a way to develop relationships as well. So if your list is small of who you can talk to, it might be another reason to join one of these peer communities. Okay. So to continue on, I want to talk a little bit about my personal story here, just to show yet more ways to get support. And I had a rock bottom moment that I thought I had no options, and was lucky enough to have a therapist tell me I actually did have options and that I could go to a place close by my house that I could get this support just for trauma. And I didn't have any addictions that I knew of. I definitely did not have any substance addictions. So outside of that, I didn't know that you literally could go to meetings. I didn't even know about meetings, and I was 40 years old at the time. And I didn't know that there were facilities I could go to. So first, I'll just explain a little bit about the difference. So you may hear of residential or inpatient programs or treatment programs. So a residential treatment program is you live on your own with your own accord. You're responsible for yourself. You have to get yourself to your courses and classes. You may be fed. You could have a cafeteria you go to. You'll have a roommate oftentimes. There's structure, but then there's times when you'll have free time. And it's typically carried out into a beautiful environment where you'll have outside space to hang out in, where a inpatient often can feel a little bit more clinical or maybe more like a hospital. So if you think of residential, it feels a little bit more home-like environment, and an inpatient maybe a little bit more hospital focused. I was fortunate enough to go to a 30-day residential in Arizona called Sierra Tucson. And I picked this place because it was literally only about a 35, 40-minute drive from my house. And so in my mind, I thought I could get there quick. Family could come see me. That was an important piece for me. I did not do a ton of research. I was told about this place, and pretty much within 3 weeks, I had checked myself into it. Now, Sierra Tucson is by no means the most inexpensive. So price is always going to be a challenge. And there's so many places. We have over 30 that we did research on as we were building Recenter up. So there's so many places, mostly in the United States, that you can attend. But please do your research. Please do your research before you choose a place, and make sure it's something that feels good for you. I spent 30 days here. I could have stayed longer if I wanted to, but they looked for about 30 days, and I was specifically built into a trauma program. Okay. So I've talked lots of ways to get in a group, and at Sierra Tucson, most of the work was group work. I did have one-on-one therapy as well, but most of it was group work. So I do want to be honest, though, and give you some what I would call cautionary tales of groups. And there's a lot of guidelines set up for these groups to help protect it. But it's really important that you do your research and know what you're looking for. Because at times a group may not feel safe. So the first thing I'll say is, when I decided to go into Sierra Tucson, I had a therapist let me know that in order to go there, she wanted me to start going to a group. Now, I was recovering from childhood sexual abuse, and the group she had sent me to was a 12-step group specifically for those recovering from childhood sexual abuse. Unfortunately, in my area, it was the one I went to, there were only males in that group. And so it was awful. I will just say, my first experience of walking into this group, first time, all males. I didn't know anyone. I had no expectations. And I sat and cried the entire hour. I stayed. Now, in hindsight, at the time, I wasn't feeling my feelings very well. So safety hadn't really been something I knew I could think about. So in hindsight, I should have gotten up and left that group. I definitely did not feel safe, and not safe with safety among the men and being the only female. That was not where I wasn't feeling safe. I just felt so scared to be there. So I should have felt comfortable to get up and leave that meeting, but I sat through it. So I would not recommend that for you. If you do not feel safe or comfortable, or you want to leave and come back and try it next time or with someone, you have all the opportunity to do that. You must take care of yourself. That's the first thing. On the flip side, when I went, I did get invited to or taken to a team meeting when I was at Sierra Tucson. We went out on a field trip to a SLA meeting, which is sex and love addiction. And many survivors end up at this meeting because a lot of us struggle with relationships. And a 12-step SLA really focuses a lot on relationships. A lot of the verbiage is around that. And then a lot of the people could be relationship anorexia, as well as having multiple relationships. It could be a lot of different things. So that felt really comfortable to me. The things they were talking about really resonated with me. That felt like a safe group. And because I was fortunate enough to live in the same town, that became what we call our home group, where I could go every week to that SLA group and mostly see the same people, know who was facilitating, and I felt very comfortable there. And I spent about 12 years going to that meeting. So that's great. At times, when you spend a lot of time going to meetings, relationships may build out. And there is a lot of guidance put into these, reminding people that as you're divulging information, it may feel like you're bonding with someone or you're getting close to people. And so at times, friendships and loving relationships, more intimate relationships may start to develop. And that is something to caution, because a lot of times it could be developing out of a place of just finally feeling connection for the first time. So again, it's frowned upon to get into relationships with other people in those meetings. But even in the residential, when you're there for 30 days with somebody, if relationships are going to happen. For me, I made 2 very good friends, a female and a male, that I still keep in contact with today. Okay, what I would like to do is we talked about bringing in Nuno, which I'm very excited about, and his personal experience in healing in a group and healing in a residential in the United States, but yet he's from the other side of the pond. So this was pre-recorded about a week and a half ago. That's the one tough thing about doing webinars at times, trying to get everybody's schedule to work. So I'm going to go ahead. What's going to happen is I'm going to take my headphones off and we'll go ahead and push play and watch the interview with Nuno. I'll be back right after that. I'd like to introduce Nuno, his personal experience in healing in community. Nuno, how are you today?
I'm good, thanks.
Everyone, where you are talking to us from, where are you?
I'm speaking to you from Lisbon, from Portugal.
Yeah.
That's where I am. I kind of live in between Lisbon and London. So this week I'm going to fly to London. So that's where I am now. And
I wished we were doing this live and I was in Portugal, I'm not going to lie. But that's all right. Next time.
Actually, we've got a very British weather today. So
okay. All right. Well, I'd love to start with your experiences. It's interesting because as with Recenter, and I just shared with everyone on the webinar, my experience of spending time in Sierra Tucson, which was a residential I went to, and my personal experience with work healing in community and how that helped me. And interestingly enough, we have a little bit of a tie that you went to a place also in America that our American consultant has worked at in a very small world. So can you share a little bit about your experience on site, why you decided to go there? Maybe just share that to start.
Yeah, I decided to go because I had some stuff that I needed to do in my life, within myself. So I can say to you that I am in recovery from addictions. And in the beginning, like 24 years ago, it was all about the substance and the addictions. As we go into recovery and you continue to work with the therapists, you will find new things that you have to continue to deal and to work on, right? And that was the case with me. I continued to have my therapy and work with my therapist. And I felt like I needed to go to a place where I could consolidate kind of a work that I've been doing. And that's why I went to one site and checked in for the week.
The week. Okay, so you did 1 week there. And did you already know before you went what you were getting into? Did you understand how the structure was going to be?
Yes, I kind of the guidelines, and I knew about what that was about. I didn't know exactly how the timetable was or details of the structure of the week, but I knew that was to deal with was getting involved in a community and with other people, and to deal with my own trauma.
Yeah. How many people were in that week with you?
Okay, so altogether we were like 58 or something. It was a big group.
Yeah.
Where we'll meet every morning and every evening we'll be together. But then throughout the day we'll be separated in groups of 7 or 8 small groups where we will do the more in-depth kind of work.
That's right. Okay, very good. So what was your personal experience? So healing in group or community, what was your favorite part about doing that?
I mean, to start saying that was very, very powerful from day zero, from day one until the last day. Because we were all together, especially in the small groups, where we did more the in-depth kind of work. And we were able not to feel for ourselves, but to share the kind of feeling that was in the room. And that was very, very powerful. I can say to you that I kind of was a week of crying, I was crying almost. If it was not because of my own emotional pain, it was because of other people's pain. And that was, I think, that created a kind of bond and unified kind of feeling and dynamic there that make the experience very, very powerful. It was like brothers and sisters, all together in the same boat. It was quite unique. Yeah.
And you all had different types of trauma that you were working through, correct? But you still were bonded together with your own best. Yeah, that's so interesting when it works. And was it co-ed, male and female?
Yes, mixed male and female. Yes, I mean, I believe that we connect through the feelings and through the way we think, and that was there in the room, right? Could be from different contents, different things that happened to us, but the shame was there, the anger was there, the compassion was there, the guilt, the feelings that we connect with each other, they were in the room. So
yes, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So you walk into a new place, you don't know anyone, you know that you're there for a week. How do you feel safe? Were there times when you initially maybe didn't feel safe and it took you a while? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of felt safe from the beginning because I did some research and I spoke with people that have been there before. So I knew that was a safe place. But from the time that I went in, I decided just to be there myself with no defenses, just throw myself into the deepest thing, and being a therapist myself, because I've been working in the field for as a counselor and a life coach for more than 20 years. That was like a difficulty because I've been always there for other people. Going to a place like that, and this is very interesting because I think this is very important as well. We were not allowed to say what we're doing in life. So we were allowed to say, if we about our families or what kind of sports do you like, or what you could talk about everything. But the golden rule was not to talk about what we do for a living, and that straight away to me gave me like a green light just to be Nuno without having to be Nuno the therapist, and because we do fear inventories and we start thinking what other people might think of, and so that was quite a very important ingredient to make the week to work so well, I felt.
Yeah, and then everyone's peers as well. That puts everyone at a level playing field. Yeah, I love that. Okay, so did they have you attend any types of groups? Did you have a 12-step meeting, or did you have a codependency meeting? Were there other meetings you went to within that week?
No, we didn't have like self-help groups kind of coming in. We did have different types of groups. So the groups that we were all together on groups of 8 and 7 throughout the day was pretty much exploratory groups, like how do you say that, experiential therapy groups. So a lot of role playing, a lot of exploration there, and healing. But then, outside of those groups, we had like meditation all together. We had like fun leisure activities. We had psychoeducation in the beginning of the day, just about the theme. Could be family dynamics, could be medicators, addiction, substance, could be anything. So different groups, but we didn't have like a self-help, like a 12-step.
Yeah. Okay. And have you attended AA type meeting or a 12-step type meeting outside of on-site?
No, we were not allowed to go out.
Okay. Since you've been home though, or out before you went, or when you got home, have you attended some?
Oh yes, I did. I attended before and after, and I still attend 12-step NA, AA, Codependence Anonymous. I attend. Yeah.
So can you maybe just share a little bit about your perspective of the difference of going to a peer-led meeting like a 12-step meeting and then attending a group such as when you were on-site?
Yeah, I mean, a peer-led meeting is like a meeting where we go and we share. There is no leader on that meeting. There might be someone that is sharing the meeting, but there is no kind of leader as such. Whilst with the facilitator, the facilitator becomes the group leader.
Yeah.
And it will guide the group where the group needs to be. Someone that has experience as well as a professional and is trained. So group participants will rely a little bit on that group leader as well. Makes the dynamic quite safe. However, self-help groups are also safe as well. Okay, but it's a little bit different. Self-help groups, there are very little feedback, challenge, things like that. Whilst on the other kind of groups, you've got some challenging and confrontation sometimes in a gentle and kind way, but. It's
even appear.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
definitely. And will just triggers us to talk about stuff that perhaps we don't want to talk about. We actually embarrassed, shame it, but we risk and we feel better in the end of the day when we finish. When we close. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember sometimes feeling not so good until the next day, till you can process, right? You go through the meeting and then you get out of it and you feel terrible. And then I'd feel better later.
If you don't initiate.
Yeah.
As they say, stuck with your secrets, right?
Yeah, that's right. You're stuck with your secrets. That's really good. So can you share, kind of to wrap up for us, if you were out there watching this webinar and you've gotten a lot of data now, and before we talked, I talked a lot about all the different options. So if you're out there seeing it for the first time, you're feeling scared or nervous, and the last thing you can imagine is talking to anybody, what would you do? What would be some of your first steps you take to start looking for, some support with others?
There's so much information on the internet. There is so many videos or webinars free on the internet. Just search for it, speak with someone, speak with a professional without any kind of commitment. Ring these players and speak with the admissions team without commitment, just talking about. But I think people need to keep in mind that life is an ongoing process. And with mental health, it's not just about taking the pill or about, going to the garage and service the oil of the car and everything. No, it's like an ongoing journey of support. And there is nothing wrong. I wish everyone could have a week in a year in one place just to recycle, talk, risk, make sense, doesn't make sense. I bet that everyone comes out of that feeling a little bit better.
I said that. Everybody should get a year or a month. I always say everybody should get 30 days at a retreat program.
I kind of a period of time where people just can be themselves, can just reconnect, recenter, readjust, and we need that. Some of us are more prone. I believe that some people are born with more sensitive genes and some people with less sensitive. The people with less sensitive doesn't mean that they don't care. They care a lot. but it means like they are more easily to overcome, difficulties of life, emotional pain and stuff like that. People with more sensitivity, they get stuck more in that pain and struggle more to overcome, to move on. But we are all human beings, it's just taking care of ourselves. It's scary. If it's scary, if it triggers anxiety and stuff like that, that's good. It's normal,
Yeah.
And it's a good sign. It's a sign that you are not burnout, right? It's a sign that you are not a machine. You are just a human being. And without any kind of commitment, just speak, ask for help, speak with someone. That's it. I do understand about the anxiety before engaging, before, being exposed in the group. But as much as we are, it's an immense feeling, I remember when I went to my treatment center for addictions more than 20 years ago. I am still in contact with a few of these people, such a strong bonds that we get together after treatment. It's so amazing to see where we are, where we were, where we are, and that's priceless. I mean, that's really priceless. But you need to start somewhere.
I love that. Yeah, reminding us of the bonds. I also have friends from when I went, 13 years ago and it might not be all of them, right? It's a few people, and that's all it takes is you just stay with a few people and connect those bonds. So, well, I really appreciate your time. Is there anything else you want to add for our audience today around this topic?
It's about not giving up. And sometimes because we are very good sometimes in sabotage ourselves, it's about let's start again. Let's call this number. Let's speak with this person. Don't get too pissed off with yourself if you don't, follow the plan or anything like that. Just give that break. Be kind to yourself and do it. The next opportunity, just do it. Pick up the telephone, speak with someone. Yeah.
Take the next right step.
Yeah.
I love that. Yes. All right. Very good. Well, thank you so much. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and I appreciate your time.
Pleasure. Thank you.
I'd like to introduce. I forgot. I hadn't watched that whole interview through, and I'm so glad I got to do that just now because Nuno had wonderful tips and tricks in his own story. Again, thanks to Nuno for hopping on that call with me and really going through his personal journey. I hope you all enjoyed it as well. Our next webinar is going to be about breaking down the barriers of trauma and really starting to talk about all the things about trauma, all the things. So I hope we see you then. And we're planning on that being a live event. So I hope to see you in March. And with that, thank you so much for watching our first webinar. And please give us some feedback either on our social media or you can send an email to our info@recenter.uk.